Hey guys, I hope you're doing well today. Um, my sermon today is called Bridge the Distance. Bridge the Distance. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for what you've done and what you're about to do today. I'm so excited. I am bursting with this sermon you gave me. Where I'm, well, where we're gonna give away some of our secrets to our relationship because it's not my secret to my relationship. This relationship we have is ours, and I'm gonna give away some of my secrets today. So some of our secrets today, we're gonna give away some of our secrets today. Speak to me, speak through me, speak to all of us something different all at the same all at the same time. We love you, Jesus. Amen. Okay, so guys, I've got to give you some background on me for this to make sense. I grew up in in Toronto, Ontario, as some of you know. Some of you may not know that. No, I'm not American, although I go to an American church and I love Americans. I am not myself American, I'm Canadian. Um, and I grew up in Toronto, and I grew up in a very big family. Uh, two brothers, two sisters, two parents growing up. And in that kind of big family, you kind of get lost. And having cerebral palsy as I did, um, I kind of got all the physical attention I needed and the emotional attention too. But um, I was very, I was a very not quiet child, but very introspective. And I started my relationship with Jesus very young. I have a video here that I talk about all of that. Uh, I think it's called something song, My Life in Song or something, where I tell the whole story of my disability and the whole thing. And I have another video. I've told my whole life story on here, I swear, guys. Um, I have another video that I just made recently about how I found elevation in that whole thing. And I have two other videos where I talk about Let's Chat and I answer some of the questions you could possibly have. But today's video is going to be different than all those videos. I'm so excited. I I I realize when I say bring God close, have a relationship with God or whatever. I haven't I've explained somewhat how to do that, but I I haven't really explained how to do that. So I'm going to speak from my own experience, what has worked for me growing up in such a big, uh, loving, God loving family, um, where we fought all the time and whatever usual family drama. And um, I'm going to tell you how I fostered the kind of relationship with God that I have now. You're probably looking at me going, wow, does she sit around all day and just, you know, bask in the presence of the Lord? I'm like, nope. No. Um, I I read crap all all the time. I I read stuff that um is probably questionable for a Christian to read, not very noble. Um, I I um because the book I'm reading now is so not noble. Um, I'm a part of a book club, and my book club leader, she reads such uh not Christian books, but so noble books and whatever, and like they're really noble, but the books that I love are not noble really. And I said, oh my god, if anybody knew what I really read, what I really enjoy, I'd probably lose subscribers like that. But coming from that, um, I am not someone who sits around all day in prayer and fasting and reading the word. Although I do those things, but I'm a regular person. And the Lord was saying to me, coming from the rainbow of relationships, people need to understand how you develop not only relationship with me, but how you developed your way of communicating with me, your way of doing sermons, how you uh, don't read don't read the Bible in your sermons, but still come out with profound truth. They need to know this. And I said, okay, what do you want? How do you want me to do this? He said, first of all, I need you to give them a play by play of how, how you read the Bible, how you approach the text, and how you watch TV, how you approach that, how you are in church, how you approach that. He said, I need you to give a play by play of how you live your life and how you uh, get the wisdom from me that you do. And I said, okay. And he said, I need you to call it Bridge the Distance. And I said, okay. So basically, this sermon is not going to be a you should do this or God says this. That that's for my other sermons. That's that's great too. I do prophetic words and I do all that stuff. But this this sermon is so important because it will give you a picture of how I deal with like life stuff, how I communicate with God and how you know how you'll see hopefully it's nothing special. And I'm not saying anyone can do it the way I can, but you can develop your relationship with God the way you can. And he wants to do it your way. No, he wants to do it his way in you. I think too many times we've told people that there's this um like this kind of serum to your relationship with God. Hearing God sounds like this. How do you know it's God? You do this. How do you get closer with God? You study like this. And that sells books, and that is wonderful, and that may work for some people. But what I've learned is that God is very individual. Um, uh, and He wants an individual relationship with you. And and I'm gonna get into what I think a relationship is and all that. So, um, first of all, I think I need to um go back s- go back to little 9-year old Rachel for for a minute. When I was 9 years old, I got diagnosed with scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine. It's where the spine curves, and I could either wear a brace for the rest of my life, or I could get the surgery. Well, then I chose to get the surgery. So during that time and going through that time, I really got a sense that that God was with me. I had been going to church as a little girl forever because my father's a pastor. I grew up with two brothers and two sisters, and we we always went to church. But at the age of 9, that news hit me, and because I couldn't, because there was so much stuff going on in my head, and because whatever, I began to get closer to Jesus because I felt that he was the only one that really understood me. Um, Although my parents were loving and my parents loved me to death, my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters, and I wasn't lacking for love. But when when you have a disability and you have so much need, so much physical need, sometimes you you kind of neglect your emotional needs too. I was really hard to get to know because when you have no privacy, when everything you do is for someone else to help you with. Like other people have privacy in the shower. Other people have privacy when they go to the bathroom. Other people have privacy when they, do all those private stuff. They do it by themselves. But when you can't do that, and when you need someone to bathe you, you need someone to wash you, you need someone to help take you to the bathroom, um, it creates a need for privacy. You want to keep some things to yourself. So I'm not saying my family wasn't there. They were supportive and whatever. But because everything about my life was known by someone, not by everyone, but by someone, I needed to keep some things private. So my outer life was public, but my inner life was private. And so that's how I began to hear my relationship, how I began to start my relationship with God because I needed a friend that I could just be me with. That I didn't have to be the pastor's daughter, or I didn't have to be like Rachel the sweet person, that I could just be me with. So that's why I started talking to Jesus just as like he was a person. So Jesus was a person, but you know, like he was right there in the room with me. So I uh, and he developed in me a way to hear him uh audibly or in my spirit because I needed that. I needed someone to pour out my innermost heart to. And there were things that went on in my family that I needed uh, someone to pour my heart out to. And that because they knew so much, I wanted to keep some things. Uh, the things I could keep private, I wanted to keep private. So, and then from there, uh, I developed this thing about God could talk back to me about like certain situations and stuff. And then when I was about, I think, 21, I started reading the Bible. And one thing I've learned about reading the Bible is that when you come to the Bible, you don't just um it's I I wouldn't just read it. Let it read you. When I don't read the Bible every day, but when I do it on the weekly basis that I do it, I try to ask the Lord. I try to ask the Lord, let it read me. Don't Some people say, let your word speak to me or speak to me, Lord. That's one that's one aspect of it. When it speaks to you, it comes off the page and makes itself real to you. But when it reads you, the word of God goes down deep in you and starts reading you like you're like it's not David, it's Rachel, or it's not David, it's Larry, or it's not it's not Esther, it's Holly. It starts to read you. And when you let the word not just speak to you, but read you, like it draws out all your i- idiosyncrasies, all your flaws, and you're like, oh my God. And it also gives you encouragement. So the difference between reading the word, like letting it speak to you and let it read you, is like when you let it speak to you, it just you're like reading it and goes, wow, that resonates with me. But resignation is not personal. Resignation is like uh it's relatable. I can relate to that. But when you let it read you, it is so personal. It gets down to the deepest parts of who you are. And and once you let the deepest parts of you come up, you can deal with that. You can deal with that. So when I listen to the word, I let it read me. I've learned that since I was, I guess, in my 30s or something. And when I'm listening to the word, it's kind of funny. When I'm listening to the word, I'm also talking to God. I'm like, what did you mean by that? Why are they doing it like that? Like, and we're having a conversation forever. And then I let it read me and let it like r- when I let it read me, it heals me. When I let it read me, it heals me. And I think that's the problem. We're teaching people how to interpret scripture and whatever. What's the interpretation of this? But we're not teaching people how to let the word read them, how to let the word bring up the issues of life that they're struggling with. And I think it's important to let the word read you. And aside from the word is not the only thing God can speak through. Um, I because I'm such a music buff, um, God has spoken to me through music, and it's rarely elevation worship or some worshipful thing. That's for when I'm my worship time, but usually when I say God speaks through music, he can speak to me through music. Like when I did a sermon called The Safest Place to Hide, that the safest place. That song came from the Backstreet Boys. When I did a song called Hard Places, that song came from um that that song came Between a Rock and a Hard Place by the name's escaping me. I'll think of her name. Um like behind every sermon that you hear is usually a song. I told you before I used to play the songs or whatever, but now I can't because um it's against YouTube rules and whatever now. But I let the song speak to me. And then when I let the song speak to me, I talk with God through it. I'm like, why is this song nagging at me? For me, it's a signal, and it's a signal when I'm listening to it over and over again. I'm like, what is this? And he'll say either a sermon title or something personal or something this and that. And I was like, wow, okay. If it's a sermon title, I kind of start uh noting down things or whatever. If it's something personal, I deal with it personally. And sometimes even through the books I read. I'm a romance person. So sometimes I'm like, I could be reading a book and nothing to do with the Lord outwardly, but something about that book could be stirring in me, and I would say, God, what is this? And he would say, well, it's your need for this. I was like, um, one time I was reading a book and I started to, I was reading a romance book and I started crying and I'm like, Lord, what's happening? She's like, he's like, you're feeling what she's feeling. And another time I was reading a book and um, he said, he said, it's your need for covering. That's why this particular book is getting to you because he's covering you, and that's a need for you. And he's like, don't worry, I'll cover you until he gets there, and I've got the right person to cover you. And it's just amazing. Um, and he's saying he's saying sometimes in church, uh, we have a distance with God because we've been taught that it's just worship and whatever. Wor- Worship doesn't just happen. Remember, I said in my last video that relationships are built and not just formed? Like relationships are are built, and you have to build a relationship with God. It doesn't just happen. Um, my pastor's wife said one time in a Bible study she had, relationships are formed, not found. You have to intentionally build one. And sometimes mistakenly we think, oh, um, reading my Bible 3 times a day builds a relationship with God. No, it doesn't. Um, it doesn't. Or if I worship in church on Sunday, that enhances my relationship with God. No, it doesn't. It just you're lifting your hands. And um he wants a total relationship with you. He wants to relate to you on your terms. I'm I'm on his terms. He wants to relate through your life on his terms. So uh, he, he wants to relate to you through your life. So he wants to be a part of your life, not just a part of your life. He he wants your life to center around him. He wants you when you're going through a situation right at that moment, stay in your head to talk through a situation with him. You know, sometimes I'm, sometimes I say like something like, um, this is hard, this is hard, and I talk with him through that. But that kind of relationship, it takes time to build. It takes time to grow. It doesn't just happen like that. It doesn't just happen like that with people, and it certainly doesn't just happen with God. With God, it needs to be built. And He wants to build a relationship with you, and it's more than he like. It's almost like when you have a relationship. I'm not married, but I'm going to use this as an example. You have a relationship with your spouse, but um, it had to be built. You had to get to know them. You know, as you get to know them, the more you love them or whatever. And sometimes the attraction or the lust was instant, but you needed to build a relationship. So sometimes at salvation, uh, the attraction or the pull to God is instant, but you need to build on that foundation. And how you build on that foundation first is through your word, through the written word. And when I say the written word, I basically mean the Bible. And when you come to any biblical text, you can ask him questions. You can talk with him through it. You don't have to just read and whatever. You can talk with him through it. You can ask him questions. You can say, why this, or this is interesting, or that's so interesting, or I don't understand this text, or like, Lord, let this text read me, or something, or whatever. And that kind of relational openness with the Lord will, if you let it transfer beyond the Bible to even what you watch on Netflix, you can say, I often say, okay, you pick the movie. What movie are we watching today? Or I'll pick the movie and we'll discuss it together. And he'll be like, sometimes, yeah, that's a good one. Or no, I don't want you watching that. And then while you're watching the movie, he'll just talk to you through it. He'll be like, okay, that, and there'll be sometimes a part that will get to you. Have you ever been watching a movie and you're like, oh my god, that part is getting to me. It's making me cry. It's making me laugh. It's making me whatever. Why is that? And he'll say, sometimes, oh, it's just a funny part, but sometimes it's a deeper reason why things are making you cry or making you laugh or making you squirm or whatever, depending on the kind of movie you're watching. Um, and even in music, um, even in the secular music, you're like, why is this song getting to me? And there may be like you need to feel joy and dance, or it may be a deeper reason why this song is getting to you, why this song emotionally has you in tears, why this song ties you up in knots. And he can reveal it through his word, but he can reveal it through the music, but it takes time and it takes your willingness to let him build the relationship with you. And for anything you're feeling, you can talk through it. You can talk through it with God. And I do want to say, um, you talking to him like a friend doesn't diminish who he is as the holiness of God, doesn't diminish his righteousness, doesn't diminish his sovereignty. All of that is still true. And you talking to him like a friend doesn't diminish that. So I've heard that said, and that is such not true. Like, if you consider him as a friend or a homeboy, he's righteous, he's God. Yes, he is, and he knows he is, but we are human, and he understands that we need to relate to him on both levels. We need to understand that yes, he is king, yes, he is righteous, yes, he is sovereign, but he is also a friend. He'll, he'll stick with you closer than a brother. He knows all that, and he wants all that with you. And like, I'm going to say something kind of weird, like, reading your Bible every day and praying every day doesn't mean you're intimate with God. It could mean you're intimate with God and you just want to know more about him, but it could mean you're going through ritual because that's what you think you're supposed to do. Like, as a Christian, I'm reading my Bible every day, I'm praying, I'm whatever. And uh that doesn't say anything about intimacy. Intimacy is into me, you see, letting God see into you and letting you see see parts of him. He can't show you all of him because you're human and that's too much for your mind to conceive. But letting you see parts of him, he will do that. And I think that, like, a lot of people are under the impression that they're intimate with God, but when they're just going through rituals. God showed it to me this way. Imagine a married couple doing all the ritual things and uh, picking up the kid. Okay, let me go back. Let me just lengthen the story a bit more. This married couple, uh, Ed and Nina, met in Bible college. And when they met, it was like, yes, this is the woman for me, whatever. So they dated, and when they dated, it was like flowers, chocolates, all of that. And they got married, and Ed went to Bible college. Nina stayed home with the kids. Ed started pastoring. But as the busyness of life, like grocery shopping and the church and all that stuff, um, began to happen, their intimacy began to wane. Their intimacy began to wane, which means n- not necessarily that they stopped uh, having sex or being intimate in that way, but their knowing about each other started to wane and change and all that. And because they were just going through the uh, emotions of like looking after the on her side, looking after the kids, doing the grocery shopping, uh, and doing the women's ministry and all that on his side, preaching and managing the ministry and pastoral meetings and all that. Because of all of that, their intimacy into each other waned. I didn't say their sex life began to wane. I said their intimacy with each other began to wane. And I'm about to say something really embarrassing. I'm not I'm not married, but the Lord wants me to go here for just a second. You can be physically having sex with your wife and not be intimate with her. Intimacy, although physicality, sex is part of it when you're married, it's not all of it. Real intimacy is letting the person see into you, see your fears, see your pain, see your happiness, see your joy. And a lot of people are physically intimate, but they're they're emotionally distant. And the Lord is saying a lot of people right now for to him are doing the physical things. They're reading the Bible. They are they are singing in worship, putting on worship music, but they're still emotionally distant. He would rather you not not do the rituals and have a close relationship with him in intimacy, which means asking him questions and then to do all the ritual things like read your Bible twice a day and worship and pray. And all those are important, but they need to come along with intimacy. And when they come along with intimacy, it's genuine and it's strong. I don't mean that you shouldn't do them. I mean that you should do them along with being intimate with Christ. And when you are intimate with Christ, then you can ask him stuff um about anything. Uh like sometimes even when I'm watching the news, I rarely watch the news, but sometimes when I see a story, I'm like, God, that's sad and whatever. And he will give um insight on how to pray or insight about the world, and we will have a total discussion. Because I said the other day, I was watching YouTube and it was another AI is so great. Here's another tool you can use with AI and whatever. And I said, Lord, what is what is this thing with AI? And we started to talk about AI. We started to talk about, what to use it for and what are what are from my perspective, the negative things about it, and he began to shine some light on it from his perspective. And no, I'm not getting into that here. It's something you need to ask him about, grapple with yourself. But but you can ask him about stuff like that. It's just like how do you feel about this story and that story and when you develop intimacy with God in that level, it will change your life. Like you can ask him questions and he can reveal about a relationship or a person or whatever if he chooses to. And then you guys can have just se- sessions about what's concerning you, about issues of the world, and not just about your children and what's concerning you personally. It can be what's concerning you about the world. And trust me, God's not a gossip. He won't tell anything about anybody. So you can give your opinion on the situation of what you hear, what you see, or whatever, and you guys can have a discussion about it. And he will sometimes take you to the word, or sometimes give you impressions, or sometimes just talk to you about it. Just like a friend would, just like you would have a session with a friend to tell about your opinion about certain things and whatever. It doesn't have to be this holy spiritual thing all the time. You could share your opinions and he could share his insight with this. And some and most of it you won't share with anyone else because that's what he told you, you know? Um and it is a glorious thing. Do I make mistakes when he says yes all the time? Do I sometimes disobey and go my own way? Yes, all the time. But that's okay because I know he knows I'm learning and I'm trying, and he'll get me to where he wants me to be eventually. And he wa- he wants his bride to close the distance. Um, he wants his bride to close the distance. Start touching him again. Start hugging him again. Start holding him again. Um, a, a person was saying when about marriage. She said, um, intimacy starts before you enter the bedroom. It starts um during the day or whatever. And intimacy with the Lord starts before you enter church. you're wondering why you're feeling dry while you're just going there, and everybody else is on fire and you're not. Check your intimacy. Is it just a Sunday thing, or is it a daily thing? A daily intimacy, a daily intimacy thing. And when it's a daily intimacy, could you imagine if everyone was intimate with God every day, was asking Him uh, about the movies or about situations in the world that concern them, or you know other things? Uh, if He pervaded all of their lives and we came together for corporate worship, that would be awesome. Have you ever been like, um, you know, you're, let's say you live with your spouse and you guys are emotionally intimate, you're physically intimate, everything, and then everything's right. And then when you get together with other spouses who are also intimate with their spouse, the the air is changed. The air does change because it 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 becomes less plastic and more authentic, because I think the world is craving authenticity, but they're thinking authenticity is revealing everything. No, authenticity is not revealing everything. It's actually going deep on a few things in your life. You know, social media sometimes creates this lie about I have to reveal everything in my life to be authentic. No, no, no. You can reveal one thing and be authentic. And sometimes we just think that we have to be like, we have to put all our business out there to be authentic. No, like, show your real heart, show your real soul. And there's a difference between transparency and authenticity. Transparency is you tell the truth about something that you're feeling. Authenticity is you tell the truth about what you're feeling and you bring the emotions along with it. You take that person not only with what you're feeling, but you bring the emotions along with it. Um, okay, a few weeks ago, I did a video. I did a video called per- "Perhaps This Is the Video You've Been Waiting For," where I talked about my story and I talked about what happened. And watching that video, um, although it was for although everyone could see it, it was really for um, uh, I spoke like it was just to my pastors at my church, although I knew anyone could watch it and it was for anyone. And in that video, I talked about transparently when I heard my pastor was watching my sermons, how I was kind of confused and a little, um, not mad, but I was a little confused about what was happening. And then I said transparently, this is what was happening to me, and I said, I'm not mad anymore, or whatever. That was transparency. I told the truth about that. But my authentic self was when I talked in the same video about when the pastor said to me, uh, y- "You'll never, you'll never preach until you get up out of this chair." That was authenticity, because if you look at both times, um, when I talked about being being a little confused um and a little about what was going on, that was just transparency. But when I talked about the uh, the emotions with my first pastor, you'll notice I stopped and I was about to cry. I I was about to cry. I was holding back tears because so in my mind that was an extremely intimate video and an extremely vulnerable vulnerable place to be. I let you see inside of me and perhaps experience a bit of what I was experiencing. Vulnerability is important, but sometimes, most times, it's not for everybody. It's for the some people have a gift to be vulnerable for everybody, and that's their ministry. And they come on and are vulnerable, and they come on and have other people be vulnerable, and that's awesome. But for most people, it's for the trusted few. It's for the uh, Peter, James, and John of your life. Because remember, I talked about um, how there are like uh, three, four groups of people. There are the crowd, which is like people you see but don't really know, people you see on the street or whatever. And there's the multitude, the lot. Okay, there's the crowd or the multitude, which is people you see on the street, and then there is the disciples, which are the 12, which is your close circle. And then there's the intimate friends, like your Peter, James, and John. And we all need relationships at each level. They each serve a purpose. Your the in the multitudinal people are just people good to know. They may or may not contribute to your life. And uh the disciple people, the 12, are your close circle, more intimate. They don't know everything, but they know what they need to know to be a part of your life. And um the Peter, James, and John are your really close friends. And this is the smallest group. So you need people in every group, but that group is typically the smallest because your vulnerability, your authenticity is valuable, and and it, and it doesn't have to be shared with everybody. Just the people that he has ordained, and you can ask him, Lord, who have you ordained for me to be vulnerable to? Or who do I need to stop being vulnerable to? because not everybody can be, not everybody can be, you can be vulnerable to. And there are some people in your life that perhaps you need to stop being vulnerable to, because they can't handle your vulnerability. I talked about my friend uh, that I met online last video. I told that whole story, and the main problem, I was being vulnerable with someone who couldn't handle my vulnerability, and you just have to make make sure, ask the Lord, not only who you can be vulnerable to, but can they handle your vulnerability? Because when people are vulnerable, vulnerability is a scary thing because what you can hear about a person may not be pleasant. It may be the nastiest thing ever. And can you handle that? And the truth is, um, most people that you run into on your daily life, they can't handle your vulnerability. And only God has ordained a select few that you can be real intimate with, that really can let you see into them, and they see into you, and it's reciprocal. And that's why being vulnerable on social media is not a good idea unless you have the ministry of vulnerability. The ministry of vulnerability is what I was talking about before. People like Tim Ross, people like Jackie Hill Perry, people like that who who their ministry, their calling is to show their vulnerability to the world so that the world can then learn what vulnerability is. So those people have a ministry or a gift of vulnerability. But most of us, we're not called to that. And that's why social media is a very dangerous place to be vulnerable, because then you get everybody's opinion on your life, everybody's opinion on what you should do. Everybody, if you need someone to talk to, ask the Lord, who do I talk to about this situation? Who can I share things with? Because you need to share everything with somebody, but you don't need to share everything with everybody. You need to share everything, well, mostly everything, with somebody, but you don't need to share everything with everybody. So I should say you need to share something with somebody, but you don't need to share everything with everybody. That's it. You need to share something with somebody, but you don't need to share everything with everybody. That's the saying. So, guys, thank you so much. I know this video was a little longer, but I had a lot to get through. Take care. Bye.